compartmentalization. Over to you.
Hi everyone. I'm really jealous of you people who sit here. I really like this. Really beautiful. Good, I have nothing to declare, yes, that's me. My dad is going to be really annoyed that I haven't put his name in there as well, but you know, one thing we do. Good, so this is exactly what we're going to talk about. So who has seen angry, violent, and irritable patients in here? Yeah, well,
Not in this room.
not really. I'd be really concerned if you hadn't, to be honest. It's like going to a surgeon and you don't have a knife. So it's pretty common. And despite being one of the most common reasons for referral, the evidence base for interventions in this field, so how to manage agitation and restlessness, acute disturbance in general, is not that much out there. And sometimes, even if you do have evidence, it's not that good. But let's start with the basics. So what do we mean when we use the term acute disturbance? I mean, to be honest, I'm a liaison neuropsychiatrist. So, you know, I work at King's, you know, people just call me and say somebody's smashing the department. So nobody say, we want you to come in to manage an acutely disturbed patient. So most of the time they would say something like, you know, agitation, restlessness, but to be honest, it's not exactly the same. So according to NICE guidelines, agitation is a symptom or a feeling that can gradually escalate, that can lead then, you know, if you're not that lucky, to violence, aggression, and maybe you're going to end up being assaulted. But acute disturbance, on the other hand, is a composite term. So acute disturbance includes the concepts of agitation, of aggression, and violence, but in the context of an acute mental state. Now, this can be associated with a mental or any other physical health disorder. So the reason why they call this all the time is to actually manage this disturbance, and this is where the rapid tranquilization comes in. And as you know, the goal of the rapid tranquilization is to achieve a state of zen. Calm, but without being asleep. So that way you can sit down with your patient, you know, have a chat, see, you know, what bothers them. Most probably, you know, give them some more medication. But we've all been there. You know, these times in your life when you're desperate. You're just, you know, going roaming across the corridors of the hospital thinking, what the hell am I going to do next? And, you know, it's not that you haven't tried, to be honest, you know. You sat down with the patient, you tried to see, you know, what can you change in the way you approach them. You gave them, you started, you know, with the oral medication. You then maybe have escalated to IM medication. But then again, nothing really works. So what's next? So what do you do next? When you've tried all these things, then you hear a drop falling. And that drop is the intravenous medication. You laugh. I love IV. Obviously, you know, I'm really, okay, not for myself, yeah. Although sometimes my colleagues say, hey, you should try IV sometimes yourself. No, not really. So, the good thing about IV is it has immediate action. That's it. Really immediate action. So whenever you need to intervene, right there on the spot, this is what it does. And when I say immediate, just say, take a look in the onesie. So if you give oral, it's 5 to 8 hours to reach the maximum concentration. So this is schematic. It's not when it starts acting, it's when it reaches the maximum concentration. You can see oral 5 to 8 hours. IM 15 to 45 minutes. So you see way quicker. Look at that boost there. IV seconds, sometimes minutes. So you can see why it's important. Obviously, it's not for everyone, right? But you know, there are times when you are at risk, the patient is at risk, everyone is at risk, and you actually need to go and intervene. However, you know, it's not that easy, because you do have several risks linked to IV medication. So respiratory depression is one of them. Cardiac arrest, you know, there are some other ones in there as well. So that's why you need to make sure that you have appropriate equipment and medically trained staff to help you with all these adverse events. So most of the times, IV is used in a general hospital. General hospital is not only the emergency department or the ICU, it can be anywhere in the general hospital. And this is why we need to strive to get back psychiatric hospitals within the general hospital. So Ben mentioned about the Johns Hopkins, that actually now they started a new unit to use psychedelic drugs and all these trials. Johns Hopkins, one of the biggest universities and biggest hospitals in the world, you have neurosurgery, and next door is psychiatric ward. So I worked there for 1.5 years, and it was beautiful because, at all times you had everything you could in your hands, right there. Let's arrange a transfer, I'm going to have an ambulance, how we're going to do that. It takes 1-2 days, no. Right there on the spot. But this is a completely different topic. So, what did I say about the goal of drug tranquilization? To achieve a state of Zen? Well, forget about that. With IV, you don't achieve a state of Zen. You just go to sleep. But then, let's see what's out there. So, if you open the Maudsley prescribing guidelines in psychiatry, and if you go in the management of acute disturbance, go on the last page, and you're going to see there's only one medication in there. It's diazepam. So 10 milligrams over at least 2 minutes, you repeat after 5 to 10 minutes if no effect is observed. So that's all they have in there. But then I was like, let's see, what about the experts? What do the emergency department medics say about them? So I looked at that. Really generic leaflet, really disappointing. And listen to what they say. Sedation should be, so this is the first thing you should do. So somebody comes to the department, this is what they suggest that you should do. Sedation should be with intravenous benzodiazepines, antipsychotics, or ketamine. If the IV route is not immediately available, which means that this is the first step, if it's not available, then you give IM. So this is what they suggest. Obviously, nobody follows that, and I'm glad they don't. But I'm not really sure why it's still in their guidance about how to treat the acute disturbance. And all of this made me think how we can, rejig things, and how we can find, is there any other evidence about any other medication we can use in IV? And yes, there is. So we started with the basics. I started with the benzodiazepines. As you can see here, there are other medications that are not really used that widely. So you can see midazolam. So the next one is a randomized control trial, 153 participants, IV midazolam versus droperidol. Midazolam was great. The second one, it did find though that it wasn't as great as the combination of those. So if you use IV midazolam and droperidol, it's better than using it either of them on their own. Really interestingly enough, lorazepam, there's not much evidence out there. And it's really interesting to see that medications that are really established in psychiatry, but the old school ones, so haloperidol, lorazepam, diazepam, everybody loves it. But is there real evidence out there to support and say, you know what, the next time somebody comes in, I'm going to give them IV lorazepam? Not really. There's not much evidence. Even in diazepam. So diazepam, just to remind you, is the only medication that's indicated and suggested, recommended by the Maudsley prescribing guidelines. Is there any evidence for that? Not really. There is one study in 1979, and they compared, it was 30 milligrams IV of diazepam versus 35 milligrams of haloperidol. I mean, who gets this stuff, right? That was 1979. So, not really. So let's see about the antipsychotics. Olanzapine and haloperidol. The olanzapine, there were only 2 studies, but more recent. There is one, there was 2016, retrospective cohort study, 700 patients, and they did find that IV olanzapine, it is really effective. There was another one in 2017, prospective observation, so you can see that there is a lack, of clear evidence when it comes, with proper, robust RCT designs. But still, they are effective. But let's go into the usual suspect, haloperidol. Interestingly enough, if you go to most of the general hospitals, haloperidol is the #1 that we give. I don't know why they love it. It's in the bloody policies. I've complained as many times as I can. I'll become really British, stop complaining everywhere. But with a Greek way. So I just email everyone, copy everyone in. I say, you can't really have, favorite, yes, you ask this fine, you should know that. But that's my lesson. So they need to change that because there's no actual evidence. And listen to that. So I found a paper in 2013. So this was an RCT. So they spent loads of money. So an RCT is not, I cannot wake up one day and I'm going to do a randomized control trial. So they started by saying that haloperidol is the most commonly used drug for delirium. Again, delirium can be part of the acute disturbance, right? Despite little evidence of its effectiveness. And they did the RCT, and they have commented in there that patients in the haloperidol group spend about the same number of days alive. Well, that's good. Without delirium and without coma as did patients in the placebo group. So you can see that, again, there's not much evidence. And they concluded the results do not support the hypothesis that a haloperidol modifies duration of delirium. What about this one? Droperidol. So it used to be like really used back in the day. And then FDA in 2001, they issued this, black box warning that droperidol, no, stop prescribing it. It causes QT prolongation and all that. Now, referring to a cardiologist for a QT prolongation is like referring to psychiatry for feeling lonely. They hate it. Every time I call them and I say, I'm going to prescribe the type, can you replace my ECG? Who cares? And usually they hang up. So this is why people get really angry, because they say, you know what, droperidol is really useful. And they started doing more and more RCTs, especially down under in Australia. There are loads of RCTs, as you can see, 2006, 2013, 2017. I'm not going to go into all the details of that. But all, they've commented not only about the usefulness, the effectiveness, but also that droperidol was safe. I'm not saying it's going to come back anytime soon, but... So, summarizing, you have lorazepam and midazolam, IV route, safe and effective, but because of the respiratory depression, it's good to also have flumazenil at hand at all times. When it comes to other psychotics, droperidol and olanzapine, again, really effective, and there is evidence to support you can give IV medication, but diazepam and haloperidol, not really. No. I got you. You thought, yes, at last, I'm going to have a coffee. No, you're going to stay here, Because there are so many other things. There's a whole universe of other different things that we can try, when it comes to managing people that want to smash up the department. Yes. I'm telling you, the options are limitless. So especially with people like, you most of you obviously work in PICUs. So it's really frustrating because they call, we'll bring you a patient that's really agitated and all that. Where do you bring them from? From the streets or from the place of safety. So what have you been doing all this time? So when the ambulance gets called, down in Hackney or, in Peckham or Bristol, whatever they are, and smashing the place up. So why wait? So why take them from the pub and bring them to the hospital to continue destroying the department? No, actually you don't have to wait. And there is loads of evidence that pre-hospital rapid tranquilization can be really effective. Again, I'm not going to bore you to death, with all different trials that are out there. The main issue, though, is that although you know that it does make sense, and you know that the ambulance, when they attend there, they're all really trained and really experienced. However, there are no randomized control trials comparing pre-hospital versus no pre-hospital. So although it makes sense that it will work, you don't really have the evidence. Now the other problem is that I'm going to show you some of the studies. So most of the studies in here, as you can see, the randomized control trials, they have mixed populations. So they don't include only people that have only psychiatric diagnosis. So they can have agitation for various other different reasons. But it is effective. Ketamine. So ketamine is an NMDA receptor antagonist. It's widely used and it's really trendy right now. It's an anesthetic agent, so emergency departments love it because it's safe. You can put them to sleep for procedural sedation, pain management, you name it. just in seconds. And yes, it is really effective. Obviously, nowadays you can use it for depression as well, with infusions. I think it's still in trials, but hopefully at some point it's gonna be a regular practice. So what they did find though is that they took a subgroup of really agitated patients in the emergency departments. So patients that they have already had midazolam, droperidol, everything under the sun, but still they wouldn't stop. And they gave them ketamine. So there are studies that can use IM or IV ketamine, and they did find that it's safe and it is effective. No serious adverse events reported in most of those. However, the doses were pretty high. But the other problem with ketamine is that most of the times it has really short action, which means that you have to keep going, you have to keep repeating. There was a most recent prospective observational study, non-randomized, that compared ketamine, both IM and IV, with IM haloperidol, and they did find that it was way quicker and way more effective than haloperidol. The other thing with ketamine, something that hopefully at some point is going to come to clinical practice, is the intranasal. So there is a stereoisomer of ketamine called S-ketamine, and there are some trials now looking about how to use intranasal S-ketamine to manage acute disturbance. So the most common thing that I have with this medication is that nobody actually calls us with an actual name. So I'm Posporelis, nobody calls me like that. It's possible. This poor guy is called dexmedetomidine. If you go to ICU, you cannot really pronounce that. So they say, can I have please a bit of Dex? And Dex is really, really beautiful and really, really effective. What do you think is the problem with that? 17 times greater cost than haloperidol. So do you think they're going to like it at King's when they say, oh, can you please try Dex? Actually, I have an NMDA. I was talking to Dr. Lennox about that. We now have an NMDA patient smashing the whole department. I was 2 days ago, 40 minutes, with 4 people restrained, holding her hand for 40 minutes. She was on clonazepam, 2 milligrams 4 times a day. She got IM lorazepam, 2 milligrams with 20 minutes in between. Aripiprazole, 975 IM, wouldn't touch it. So, but we did want to do an MRI to see if there is a virus teratoma. And I suggested that the only way to do that is to give IV midazolam. And what we did, we took her down to the ICU, put her IV midazolam, and now she's fine. Just to tell you this, she was on propofol and fentanyl. I know it's a bit off the bit, propofol and fentanyl. By the time they would wean her off that, she would start smashing things up. To show you how disturbed the behavior can be and how IV medication can really help these cases. So, dexmedetomidine, okay, enough with that. As I said, it's an alpha-2 agonist. They really love it in the ICU when they have money. But the good thing about it, and even if you say that it's really expensive, man. Well, let me give you these numbers, obviously I don't remember all this on top of my head. So they compared in intensive care unit Dex with haloperidol. What they did find, significantly shortened the median time to extubation. So, people are intubated and say, okay, let's try to remove that. What's going to happen? With Dex, so it shortened the median time to extubation from 42.5 hours to 20 hours. Decreased the ICU length of stay from 6.5 days to 1.5 days, which means that you give a way more expensive medication, but it has a significant benefit for the patient. And even if you look into more financial terms, actually, because obviously people did that, they did find, let me tell the actual numbers, it was really impressive. So the direct cost of dexmedetomidine was 17 times greater than haloperidol. It achieved a mean savings of $4,370 per patient due to the reduction in the length of the ICU, in the stay in the ICU. So you can see how important that is. Good, okay, enough with Dex. Let's move on quickly, go ahead. 2 to 3 minutes. Oh, fine, okay, I can just done. So drugs, again, Ben talked to you about that. I'm afraid then I'm going to say that MDMA sometimes, it can cause significant agitation. And we did have many times, in the emergency department, people that come up with MDMA-related agitation. There are randomized controlled trials of people with unmanaged agitation because of MDMA. And the most effective way to deal with that, there's not much evidence. So by that I mean that it was only a subgroup of patients in the emergency department that had the MDMA-related agitation. It was to give IV droperidol or IV olanzapine, so pretty hardcore up the scale. On the other hand, we have the GHB and GBL. So, are you familiar with these two? Well, GBL used in narcolepsy. GHB is what? It's a rust remover, or a stain remover, or an inhibition remover. So it has been linked with lots of sexual assaults. So they give GHB, then they really calm, sedated, then they may be sexually assaulted or raped. Now the problem, apart from the obvious, is that there's really short, there are really differences between having a high and being overdosed. And the problem is that with these people, when they start withdrawing, they become extremely agitated. So even if you have even like remote concern that somebody is intoxicated or withdrawing from GHB or GBL, most of the time, we straight away will put them in the ICU. Benzos is the mainstay of treatment for them. Can you guess what doses do we talk about? So let's say diazepam. I want to see hands. So diazepam, come on. How much diazepam do you think they need? You, come on, take it up. How much? Diazepam, give you a number. 60. Higher. Number, good, you know what here. Yes. 80. Higher. 120 with the lady. Higher. Oh, no, you're going to do that. 300 milligrams of diazepam. Can you actually, so think about it. So let's say that you are, on the ward and somebody's smashing this department, and something happens and say, oh, you give 300 milligrams of diazepam. Yeah, I'm going to do this. Yes. But this is why we're talking about, definitely put them in the ICU, because in the end of the day, you're going to need 300 milligrams of diazepam, or something like, there is a study that reads up to 200 milligrams of lorazepam. So putting the pieces together, if you want to read a bit more about that, you can find it in this publication last year. Faison is one of the first authors. I was one of the 35 authors, but I wrote a bit of the idea. It has really good guidelines. It has this beautiful flow chart that can actually guide your clinical thinking about what to do next when things fail. And with that,